afternoon and welcome to News 6 Extra. I am Kathleen Whittingham, a streaming producer here at News 6. You may notice Chris is off today. He is actually at an appointment, but he will be back tomorrow. We have plenty to get to today, but first, let's get to the weather. You know, Central Florida has been experiencing some pretty chilly temperatures the last couple days, but we always knew it was going to be short-lived. So let's bring in meteorologist David Nazario. And David, the 80s will be returning soon.
Oh, yeah, we've been in for a wild ride over the last few days in Central Florida. Once again, this past Sunday into very early Monday, we had some heavier rainfall out there, some isolated thunderstorms, a severe thunderstorm risk that didn't quite pan out. Then through the day on Monday, after the front came through, we watched temperatures literally fall at the wayside. And then Tuesday, we set some morning records. This morning, we had some frost out there in Central Florida. And then by the time we get into tomorrow and this weekend, we're warming up big time.
Oh, man. Well, enjoy it while it lasted. Hopefully we have a couple more months to get some cooler mornings in.
We should. And in fact, I'll go ahead and get the headlines up now so we can get this show on the road. Let me go ahead and pull that over for you. So here is the weather story currently for the next few days. As was already alluded to, we started out cold this morning, but the warm-up is already underway. If you step outside today, as we get closer to the warmest portion of the afternoon, which should be occurring within the next 2 hours, give or take, we'll be in the upper 60s, if not even touching 70 degrees in some spots, especially for our southeastern counties, Osceola, the eastern periphery of Orange County, and Brevard. And then we are fully back into the 70s almost across the board by tomorrow. And then a warm and muggy weekend is expected. Just like Kathleen was saying, in Florida, we know short order. As soon as the cold air comes, it doesn't want to stick around. It'll check in and check out almost immediately after its stay gets started. Let's show you the water vapor satellite right now so we can kind of set the stage, and I'll get my face out of the way so we can dissect this. So we've got a backwards pattern over the United States right now. Big old trough that continues to move off towards the east. It's almost over. You can see it kind of extending down from portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, arcing back towards the southeast, really curling up, eventually turning almost eastward as you get closer to the mid-Atlantic states of Virginia, the Carolinas, and so on. And as a result, we're seeing the cold air starting to pick up its forward progress. It's moving a little faster to get out over open water and get away from us. And then a big old ridge dominating the weather pattern over the Rocky Mountains from north to south over the western U.S. That's going to be working its way towards us. Locally, we have high pressure finally sitting overhead. So while it was a chilly start to the morning, because the winds have successfully calmed down just as forecasted, the feels-like temperatures are now starting to match our air temperatures a little bit more. And when you look at the current temps this afternoon, it's actually pretty cozy outside. Might be a little chilly, you know, at least relative to us native Floridians if we've thinned the blood out over several warmer summers, but you can see we are already getting into the mid to upper 60s in some spots. And when you take a look at where we were yesterday at this time, look at that. Massive warm-up already underway. Gainesville and Ocala, who started this morning freezing. Gainesville well below freezing, coming in with a low temperature anywhere between 28 to 29 degrees, is already 14 degrees warmer than they were yesterday. And the rest of us are also on our way. You can see for the forecast highs for the day today, a couple spots, Cocoa Beach, Melbourne, and Brevard County, and Lakeland out there in Polk County, going to try to see 70 degrees this afternoon before we cool back down into the overnight hours. Not nearly as chilly as the last couple of days. And when you take a look at your forecast highs for tomorrow, looking even better. I would honestly say, and maybe you all at home agree with me, this looks to be a pretty spectacular Friday Eve leading up to the weekend when we finally get back to that gold standard setup here that we're very familiar with in Central Florida. You take a look at the temperature trend over the next 7 days, we're going to continue to go from well below average to right back above average. And Climate Prediction Center actually has us pinpointed for potentially above average temperatures rocking all the way up till about Thanksgiving and Black Friday. A couple of computer models are hinting at maybe another frontal system coming down to cool us off, but because it's so far out, computer models will naturally adjust what the layout of the big picture weather pattern looks like, let alone what these individual systems coming through that could either warm us or cool us off are going to be doing. One thing I've been starting to emphasize slowly but surely, since we're between significant weather players right now, are the rain chances. And it almost seems like I'm wasting your time right now showing you a graphic that has virtually nothing on it, but there's a reason why. If I show you what the next 7 days look like, courtesy of our American model, the GFS, notice we're pretty much underneath high pressure and relatively calm and clear conditions, at least out till next week. We got a weak system that's going to clip us to the north there. You can see the precip and the rainfalls starting to kind of get their act together by next Wednesday. But given what the jet stream is going to be doing, we're now into the portion of the year where the jet is going to direct all the rain. If the jet ain't anywhere near close to us, we're not going to get any of the rain. So we'll have to watch exactly what it does. Maybe a slight chance for rain, possibly. We'll start to continue to dial that in through tomorrow and Friday, but as we get closer to the end of fall into winter, this puppy here is going to start popping up a little bit more. And you can notice that as our rainfall totals have fallen, drought conditions are already starting to sneak back into the western half of our viewing area. And when I zoom us out, take a look at the whole state, we actually already have extreme drought conditions in play for northern Florida. So the drought and the dry season are well underway, which means we're going to be talking a little bit more about fire weather and fire hazards as we get into the heart of the winter, December, January, and February. And this is predominantly why we still have a La Nina holding steady in the tropical Pacific, running on borrowed time more than likely. Next year, towards the springtime, is going to be interesting for our severe weather and our spring weather setup. But for now, we're looking at a drier than normal winter with a few occasional cold snaps and maybe a push or two of rainfall over the next month or two. Now, since we haven't rounded out the month of November just yet, still got to talk tropics, but that's all I'm going to say about the tropics because as you can see here, we are still expecting no development over the next 7 days. I looked at some ensembles this morning, as a matter of fact, just out of sheer curiosity, no pun intended there, and there's really nothing out there. I think we can successfully say Melissa, the 13th named storm, albeit a big one, was the conclusion of the 2025 hurricane season. And by next month, I'll openly admit, I'm going to start looking at what next year could look like, especially as big picture factors that we typically look for from a pre-seasonal standpoint will begin to evolve. So last but not least, let me get myself out of the way. We'll close out with your 7-day forecast, which actually looks pretty good, especially over the next 3 to 5 days, especially into this weekend. Again, no major rain players or any cold fronts coming through. No threat for thunderstorms. Should be relatively clear and actually comfortable for a t-shirt and shorts and maybe even a quick trip to the beach if you're a fan of the low 80s across the board, especially for our East Coast counties.
All right, David. Thank you. I like that clear and calm forecast, but like you said, we do have to watch out for that drought risk.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's going to become a bit more of a buzzword as we get into December, January, and February. We'll see.
Okay. Keep an eye on it for us. All right. Thanks, David.
Very welcome.
All right, now let's get over to the other big story today, and that is all eyes on Capitol Hill. That is where the longest government shutdown in U.S. history could end today. The House of Representatives is set to vote sometime this evening on a measure that was passed by the Senate on Monday. It would fund the government, at least temporarily, but it does not include anything about the Affordable Care Act and those subsidies, which has been a key sticking point for Democrats. But Republicans can afford to lose 2 votes, but that's it, in order to get this measure passed. But according to Republicans, they have the votes, and they are ready to send this bill to the president's desk. CBS's Natalie Brand is on Capitol Hill and has this.
We're sorry that it took this long.
The Senate-passed deal made it through the House rules early Wednesday morning.
Democrats thought this political stunt would give them leverage. They used the American people as leverage, and for what? Really? So big insurance companies can continue collecting big payouts.
Republicans on the committee rejected Democratic amendments, including one to extend the Enhanced Affordable Care Act health subsidies Democrats have been demanding.
This should be something that Republicans should have come and negotiated with us, but they wouldn't do that.
As House members race to return to Capitol Hill,
I'm on my way to D.C.
some are finding creative ways to get back amid airport snarls, including Wisconsin Congressman Derek Van Orden riding 950 miles on his Harley.
Even with an end in sight, the question remains how long before government functions can return to normal.
Air travelers are expecting another day of delays, and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says it's still too early to know when flight reductions at major airports could be lifted.
We're going to wait to see the data on our end before we take out the restrictions in travel, that 6% we have in place right now. But it depends on controllers coming back to work.
Duffy says air traffic controllers will start getting paid within 24 to 48 hours of the government reopening. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Well, and of course, a lot of federal workers are waiting anxiously to see if that it will pass and they can start getting paid again. A lot, of course, have been working without pay, including air traffic controllers and TSA agents, which led to those flight reductions. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on there. And of course, if anything happens and if that measure does pass, you can sign up for our news alerts on your app store or go to clickorlando.com. Well, here in Central Florida, a new survey in Orange County is reigniting the debate about school start times and how early kids should start learning during the day. The school district in Orange County has sent out a survey to parents questioning just that. What time should your kids go to class? It comes ahead of a new state law that mandates high schools start no earlier than 8:30 starting next year. But as News 6's Stephanie Rodriguez explains, things are not set in stone and districts do have the option to opt out.
Orange County Public Schools want to know what parents and students think about adjusting the start times for elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools to comply with the new state law. Florida statute mandates that by July 1st, 2026, school districts set middle and high school start times to later in the morning. That would put elementary schools at 7:45, middle schools at 9:35, and high schools at 8:40. Unless the district can provide a report demonstrating the impact of the changes. So enough members of the OCPS community have to make a compelling case as to why the school's schedule should remain unchanged. Now, that survey that they sent out is to gauge what people think about this. Parents and students we spoke to say they'd like to keep it the same.
For us, we're going to have a middle schooler and an elementary school student as of next year. So if they shift those times that we've been planning for, it may end up being kind of tough on us.
I like it how it is, yeah.
A note that precedes the OCPS survey cites research stressing the importance of adequate sleep for middle and high school students, pointing to studies that show later start times can help improve adolescents' mood, attendance, and academic outcomes. The survey is open until Friday, the 21st. We have a link to it over at clickorlando.com. Reporting in Orlando, Stephanie Rodriguez, News 6.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. We are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, a scheme warning that involves ghost tapping. At least that's what it's being called by the Better Business Bureau. So stick around. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. Welcome back to News 6 Extra. I am Kathleen Whittingham. Chris has the afternoon off, but don't worry, he'll be back tomorrow. So now we want to get to a consumer alert about something many of us have enabled on our cards, where you just simply tap to pay. There's little kiosks at pretty much every counter. But the Better Business Bureau is warning about a new thing that thieves are trying to do to steal your money without ever getting the card. It's called ghost tapping. CBS's Evan Moon explains how they're getting away with this and what you can do to protect yourself and your money.
No wallet, no problem. Tap to Pay has become a popular way for quick and convenient checkouts. But the Better Business Bureau is warning shoppers to slow down to avoid a threat called ghost tapping.
Ghost tapping is when your tap to pay card is secretly charged without your knowledge, or you tap it and then it's charged multiple times.
The technology can take your money without ever touching your card, using its NFC or near field communications, how two electronic devices talk to each other.
When those communications are intercepted, it allows a bad guy to essentially use your credit card for unauthorized transactions. The good news is a bad guy has to be within inches of either your mobile phone or your credit card in order to skim that information.
These crimes come as touch-free payments are on the rise. More than half of Americans are using mobile wallets like Apple Pay, according to MasterCard.
If you love using Tap to Pay, you're not alone. It's almost effortless. But as we head into the busy holiday shopping season, experts say there are some ways you can make sure you don't get tapped out by these scammers.
Melanie McGovern with the Better Business Bureau says be vigilant in crowds.
The first time I heard about this was at a concert, that people were reporting that they had charges that they weren't familiar with, and it happened after they attended a concert. So when you're in close quarters, and there's Christmas festivals coming up, holiday festivals, marketplaces, things like that.
Cybersecurity expert Robert Siciliano's #1 piece of advice is to pay close attention to all card activity.
Is to set up push notifications or push alerts so you can dispute them with your credit card company.
So this holiday shopping season, make a list and check your taps twice. Evan Moon, CBS News, New York.
Good advice there. Well, now to a story that we have been covering for a couple weeks now. Earlier, late last month, there was a pretty bad storm system that came through and dumped 19 inches of rain in parts of Central Florida, including Mount Dora, that left roads washed out and roads damaged. And that includes Donnelly Street, which is a key road getting into the downtown area of Mount Dora. And that has businesses issuing kind of a warning to shoppers, especially with the holidays approaching, that they're still open for business, even though some of the roads around the area are closed because of that flooding. So Ginger Gadsden and her producer, Robert Brewer, went out there to check the roadblocks and to see how businesses are navigating the changes.
Producer Robert Brewer and I wanted to come to downtown Mount Dora to show you that it's still open for business, and they want you to know they're open for business too. But one of the ways many of us like to get into downtown Mount Dora is Donnelly Street.
And as you can see, Donnelly Street is closed, and it doesn't look like it's going to be open anytime soon.
There's lots of other ways in. I come from Taveri, so I come Old 441 through that way. So you just come that way, or they've been publicizing it that there's lots of ways to get here.
That's what downtown business owners are trying to remind shoppers. Donnelly Street might be blocked, but the holiday spirit certainly isn't. In fact, many paths lead to the same destination. Producer Robert put together this handy street map to show some other ways to get to downtown Mount Dora while Donnelly is down.
Well, say you're coming in from the north, like Eustis or DeLand, no problem. Take Highway 19 right on in. Coming from the south, like Apopka or Orlando, you can use Old Highway 441. Coming from the east, like Sanford or Lake Mary, State Road 46 turns into First Avenue before heading into downtown. And lastly, if you're coming from the west, like Tavares or Leesburg, Lakeshore Drive is the way to go.
This perception that downtown Mount Dora, there's only one way in.
Right.
Not true.
And there was this cute little old couple that came in the other day, and one of them was like, why? I didn't know it took so long to get into downtown. And they tried to get into Donnelly, but then they had to go all the way around. But they still made it. They didn't give up, you know.
Yeah,
they came
yeah.
in still, which was
Yeah.
awesome.
How's
but
business been?
It's been okay. It's been good. The weekends are for sure busy. The weekdays, you know, kind of slow every once in a while, but it's been picking up.
Like at the first couple of days after, there wasn't a lot of people, but now it comes in waves of people coming in and out. And then once people see that other people are going in, more people come.
You guys are definitely open for business.
Yes, 100%.
The Christmas tree is up and the doors are open. In Mount Dora, Ginger Gadsden, News 6.
Mount Dora is such a charming little place to visit, especially in the downtown area. So while it may take you a little longer to get there, it's worth the visit. So, well, before we go, we want to talk about the end of an era. Today is the last day that the U.S. will be minting pennies. You know, those 1-cent coins that fill our wallets and pocketbooks, and, well, some of us just collect them. After 238 years, the U.S. is minting the very last one today. It comes after President Trump ordered the nation to stop making the penny, since kind of outweighs the cost. It's worth 1 cent, but it costs approximately 4 cents to make. Several businesses have already announced that they will begin rounding prices either up or down to the nearest nickel to make up for the loss of the 1 cent coin. However, if you still have some sitting around, you may want to keep them. They could be worth something, you know, in the future, since they will now be a thing of the past. In fact, one consumer expert that I talked to said that there's actually some apps that you can download, and you can scan the coins that you do have, and they'll tell you if they're worth any kind of value. So maybe hang on to those pennies for a little bit longer, even though there won't be any new ones made. Well, that is going to do it for us here on News 6 Extra. Please tune in for our next newscast, which starts at 4 o'clock. And always be sure to check out any breaking news that we have on clickorlando.com. I will be back tomorrow along with Christopher Heath. We will see you then.